I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. If you're at home and you notice that we've got a couple of vacant chairs, Jan and Bob are doing town business over in Jefferson as we speak, but we do expect them to join us later. Okay. Presentations. Anything that needs to come to the table now? If not, we'll go into public hearings. Do I have a motion to go into open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. We're in public hearing.
I thought in case we have anybody out there in the world and if people who might view this after the fact, tonight we're going over our November 8th special town meeting warrant. So I will just go over the articles and then I'll give a brief explanation. And then if anybody has any questions. Article 2 states, shall the town vote to authorize the select board to amend the interlocal agreement under such terms and conditions as they deem advisable with the town of Friendship for the cooperative use of the Waldeboro Emergency Medical Service. The town of Waldeboro has had an interlocal agreement with the town of Friendship since March of 2006. This amended agreement defines the services that Waldeboro EMS provides to the town of Friendship and also the formula used to calculate the charges for service. The formula is based on population and call volume. As an example, for fiscal year 2023, the town of Friendship's percentage of the cost of operation of the Waldeboro EMS would be 13.10%. The town of Jefferson's would be 18.67%, and the percentage cost for the town of Waldeboro would be 68.23%. So essentially what we're doing is we're providing our EMS service to the towns of Friendship. And you'll see Article 3 deals with the very same question for Jefferson. I think it's no secret that this is something we've worked towards literally for the last year. This has been in front of us and we've been working on it with all the towns. So Bob and Jan are at the town of Jefferson's public hearing for this evening, which is why they are not here. And the old formula that we used was a little bit more complicated than the current formula we use. And it does provide, it's an equal share now for all the towns based on call volume and on population. We've said it many times in the past, as EMS evolved, we had to make some significant changes to ensure that we had coverage for our residents and the towns that we serve. So last year we saw an increase in the wages for our medics and our EMTs, which was quite significant. But as I explained many times over the last year, it's very difficult to pay someone less than they could make flipping burgers when they're giving you medicine that can stop your heart. So we just have to be very mindful of how this is going to evolve. And all those changes, and Derek's probably saying the same thing in Jefferson at this point, but those changes have resulted in us being better staffed. We are running our transports as we had done, which we had gotten away from. Well, we were at the lowest point of our staffing about a year ago. So things are looking up. And we are going to start talking about, and I think during this budget season, you'll hear a lot about how we plan to move forward and what the future of EMS looks like. So that's where we are with those two questions. And it really does afford us the ability to have the services of what the other town that we serve both Jefferson and Friendship's expectations are of our service and what we can expect as the charge for that service.
Do you have to put the amounts that they will be paying this year, or just?
It's, so we have an actual contract with them that is available. It will be attached to the, it's available in our clerk's office. It'll be attached to the warrant. It has a Schedule A, and it gives you the actual, how we determine the population, and that's based on the last census, which would be the 2020 census.
Mhm.
So it's population plus calls, total call volume, and that's based, the call volume is based over 3 years. So it's an average of the 3 years of call volume. So it's beneficial. It is beneficial to us to serve these other communities. I should also point out that we staff 2 crews at a time, sometimes 3 if we can during the summer months when it's busier. We have a wonderful a wonderful mutual aid in place with Central Lincoln County Ambulance. And people might ask, well, why do you have a mutual aid agreement with them and not, say, Warren or Union? If you were to look at our calls for assistance from CLC and vice versa, our mutual aid to them is about even. In other towns, we are most likely, who we are not contracting with, providing them with mutual aid, not so much them providing with us. So we do also have agreements in place with those communities. And then we have a Schedule A, and then Schedule B would be a sample of how we bill each year. So if you'll recall, one of the big things that was always the question was how, we want to pay for what we use, but then we want all of the revenue too. And how we bill now really is a very fair way of doing it for all the parties. So we are all sharing the revenue and we're sharing the expenses. And that would include your capital expenses and your operating
shortfalls as
budget.
well.
I'm sorry?
And your shortfalls as well.
And right. It's not just, it's assets and liabilities. We're sharing it all. And I will tell you, it has worked out well since we've made the change. So that would be, that would cover Article 2 and 3. Article 4 deals with how we should handle the proceeds from the sale of Friendship Street School, and that reads, shall the town vote to appropriate a portion of the $306,251.65 proceeds from the sale of Friendship Street School to the following projects? So the town of Waldoboro completed the sale of Friendship Street School in July, and we realized $306,251.65 from the sale. The select board has recommended that approximately 1/3 of the proceeds, right around $102,500 to be exact, be allocated to the following projects. And that is to appropriate the sum of $15,000 for engineering to cap the concrete foundation area of the former Sylvania site, creating a natural grass area on the site. And the capping of the Sylvania concrete foundation with the grass area was a recommendation of the Sylvania Task Force and of the Sylvania Development Committee. And although there are members of the task force on the development committee, there are other members from the community who volunteered. The grass area would cover the existing concrete slab. It would improve the overall safety and appearance of the site. And the capping would not preclude the use of the space, but provide for a grassy area. Again, they're still developing their plan, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. It would also appropriate the sum of $60,000 in matching funds for a 2022 Department of Environmental Protection stream crossing grant for the replacement of the Elm Street culvert. And the grant funds would be an estimated 150,000 and the town matching fund 60,000. And the Elm Street culvert has been identified as a culvert that needs replacing due to the stream being lower than the culvert after work by MDOT on Route 1 near the town office. This work caused erosion and deterioration of the culvert. And we did pursue the replacement through MDOT with no success. And the other part that makes this culvert so expensive is it has to be a live bottom culvert to allow for fish passage. And it's very complicated because of its proximity to both water and sewer lines that are actually under the culvert. So that is why we are requesting $60,000 in matching funds. Also, we would like to appropriate the sum of $7,500 to replace the Welcome to Waldoboro signs along Route 1. That's been a longstanding request of the Garden Club, and people can see that they are deteriorating. And with the 250th anniversary of our town coming up next summer, it would be nice to spruce them up and potentially add some of the, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but what the logo for the 250th is with the 5-masted schooner. So that could be something we can talk about too. And also to appropriate the sum of $20,000 to remove the hemlock woolly adelgid from the town forest. And I said it properly, so I should get a gold star for that. The hemlock woolly adelgid is an invasive insect, and it is present in our ancient hemlocks in the town forest. And we need to get rid of them to save the hemlocks. Our town forest is home to one of only 11 documented old growth hemlock stands in Maine. And in May of 2021, what the adelgid was detected. And the Conservation Commission has been working with the Maine State Forest Service and their entomologists to determine what would be the best course to save the hemlocks. And the Forest Service developed a plan to save the oldest trees that includes treating the hemlocks with trunk injections of a pesticide, and then the periodic release of beneficial beetles, which prey upon the hemlock adelgid, woolly adelgid. The town did receive a grant of $10,000 for the first set of trunk injections for the trees, and this $20,000 in funds would be used for a second round of injections and ongoing release of beneficial beetles. And these beneficial beetles that have been released, and I think there's 2 different kinds now that we're starting to use, have been proven effective in other areas. And so that is what we are doing with that. And then on the back of the warrant, you will notice there is a survey about potential uses for the Sylvania and Hofstas homestead. And that is a survey that we hope people will complete, that we put on the back of the questions, because we're hoping to get, if we sent it out in a, what's that called online? Survey Monkey, or if we handed it out, surveys don't come back. And I will admit, I'm the first one. I will fill out a survey when I get it with all intentions of bringing it back, and I always find it on the refrigerator under some type of an invitation. So we decided, I think, Max and I had decided to bring it up to the select board to see if you would put it on the back of the warrant. And I think that will be a great way to gauge what the residents really want to do. And I think a good comparison to this was in 2020, we put, during the presidential election, we put a bunch of non-binding referendums on, and it really gave us a direction for the community, so that more than just somebody who was on Facebook or who was in the office and picked up a survey, we were really able to gain a lot of insight into our residents. So that will be on the back, and we hope everybody takes the time to fill that out. And I also want to announce that at this next election, you're not going to see the old voting booths. We have new voting booths. One is outside the door right now. So if you come in and you want to vote in person, your absentee ballot, it is in the hallway, and it's 4 voting booths in one, essentially. And one of those 4 is dedicated to handicapped accessibility, or if people want to come in and sit down. And it'll be especially helpful in our June elections when we have our long town warrants. People can take the time, sit down and fill it out, especially if, they get a little tired of standing up for so long. So that will be something new that you will see. So that's an exciting thing that we were able to do. And I think that concludes it. And I don't know if anybody out there has any questions. And I should also say that the warrant and questions are available through a link on our Facebook page, and they are also available through a link on the front page of our website. And if you have any questions, you can always call the town office. Press 5 or 6, you'll get myself or you'll get Pam, and we can normally help you.
Question. The voting booths, do they belong to the state or us or?
They belong to us. I do not know how old our booths that we use, the metal booths that we used are, but it was a chore to set them up and take them down, and they
I know.
are, and even moving them, they're a
Heavy.
bit rickety, they're very heavy. So I was going to put that out to other towns who might need those, but I don't think there'll be any takers. I haven't gotten one yet. But the new booths are much easier to get up and get down, and it's something that can be accomplished that morning and not have to be set up the night before.
Okay.
Because
great.
sometimes what happens is we set up the night before, and then one of the ambulances has to go outside, and we just don't want to, you don't want to do that. So it should make setup and take down a lot easier than all those curtains. And that was the other thing. During COVID, people got away from the curtains being utilized because you didn't want anything to happen. You didn't want the cross contamination during COVID, but the curtains, people really seem to like not having that curtain hit them on the back. And it is a very private, you'll see when it's fully up, it's a very private booth. So it should be fun. We're excited about it.
Any other questions? Any questions from home? Or visitors online? No? Okay. All right. Anything else that has to do with our November 8th warrant? If
I can
not,
make a motion to close the public hearing.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of closing, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried.
Make a motion to act on the November 8th, 2022 ballot.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we act on the November 8th warrant. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're down to adjustments to the agenda. Does anybody have anything they think needs to move up, back, around? Okay. Citizen comments. Is there anything from? Nothing? Okay. We don't have a room full of people with us this evening. so-
We don't even have Ruben.
He's just typing something.
All right. Okay, select board comments. Let's move on to number 7. Abden,
I guess all I can say is the Shellfish Committee got a thank you from the Oktoberfest people. I guess there was over 400 people that showed up. They sold most of the clams that the Shellfish Committee donated, and because we gave them all the proceeds from the sales, we didn't take anything out for the cost of the clams or anything. So I don't know how well they made out, but I'm sure they must have made out pretty well.
Great.
Yep, I got my Oktoberfest shirt. I bought 3 of them, so I donated.
Yeah, Oktoberfest was a great event. I went up with the kids. And just want to say thank you to all the the people that volunteer their time to organize and run that. It's really been great the last couple of years. A lot of people there, a lot of stuff to do. So,
And to those that attended,
yes,
I heard they ran out of beer.
did they?
Yeah.
Surprising.
Okay, the only thing I have is that I accompanied 44 other people to Freiburg to the state fair on a bus from the recreation department here within the
He
town.
was one of those people
And it
stuck
was-
in traffic on the bus.
Oh,
I saw
that was
that picture.
incredible.
I saw that picture.
On the way in, yeah. There was a line that went back at least 5 miles, and then we creeped up, and then we stayed an extra, almost an hour later, so that people really got a chance. It was a beautiful day, and I believe, I know we brought back the same number we took, and we believe everybody had a good time, so.
And we need to thank you because unfortunately our rec director got sick and we needed somebody to keep track and make sure we had all the people, and Jan graciously volunteered to take that on, and we really
I was gonna go
appreciate that.
anyway, whether,
Right.
I'd already signed up for it, so I was glad that he could call and take care of that. So, no, it was a good time, and I highly recommend it. Okay, any other comments? All right, let's move on to the town manager's report.
I have a couple of things. One is we have a new weather station that the Shellfish Committee has put up. So if you're interested in what the weather is in Waldeboro, if you go on Weather Underground, I think we are under clam capital of the world. I don't know. I
Really?
did not name it, but that's,
Capital of Maine, I believe.
or clam capital of Maine. So if you are interested, Weather Underground has the up-to-minute weather data here at the town office. I also wanted to point out that we put out on Facebook starting yesterday a couple of notices. As we do every year, we are going to be doing our holiday toy drive and also our boot and coat drive. And we put the request out early because last year there were so many shipping delays. We want to make sure that we get our request in early so that we can ensure that everybody is fulfilled. We also put out at the same token, and it's a little different this year, if you sign up for a Thanksgiving basket, you don't have to sign up for the Christmas, you're signing up for both baskets. And I just want to give you an idea, that has only been up on Facebook for a day, and we already have signups for 53 baskets. 39 families have signed up for coats and boots. And we're running at about 50 for
The
toys. So
coats and boots, is that adult? Doesn't matter what it is?
the coats and boots are typically, we cover children
Just
of
kids.
Waldeboro from birth to until they're out of high school.
I was just curious, because we was at Burlington Coat Factory yesterday and they had some jackets that were $40, $50, $60 jackets for like $12. And we
So-
should have picked a bunch of them up.
So, well, I will say, you're very good about picking, you are married to an avid shopper who is very good at getting deals.
Frugal.
Very frugal. But that's one of the things is we just want to make sure before we start asking, that was a question I got today, is why aren't we requesting anything yet? And we want to know, especially for the toys, we get a lot of people who love to donate toys for younger kids, but our age range is from literally birth up to 18
That's
years
why I
old.
was asking.
Yeah, so we've been really trying to only ask for what we need. Because a lot of those older ages are just so hard to buy for, especially with the toys. So cash donations, I will announce, or monetary donations are always welcome, because then we can properly shop for them. People love to donate. I was asked if we're taking food donations. We are not taking food donations. If you have food donations to make, you should make those to the Waldeboro Food Pantry. We don't want to compete with anybody else. But again, we will take monetary donations for our the food baskets. The Ecumenical Church does the Thanksgiving baskets, and we traditionally with the Lions Club do the Christmas baskets. But just to be aware that that's up and coming. And I just want to end on a thank you to our town clerk, Pam Jameson, who got out the ballots, the absentee ballot requests. I don't know how many we're up to, but Pam has just been awesome this election cycle and has gone above and beyond. And everything, we were open on Monday, which was traditionally a holiday. We had the absentee ballots available and we're chugging along. Elections November 8th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's all. And she'll be there, we'll be here all day.
Probably longer than all day. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, is there a motion to accept the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Will, is there any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, that takes us down to new business. There's one thing on the agenda here, VOA AD Gray update. Voice Volunteers of America.
And we have Brian with us tonight.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? So I wanted to come up there in person, but Julie insisted that I not actually, but for some reason, I'm just kidding. She gave me the option. I took the option to show up via Zoom tonight. So I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on where we are with the AD Gray project. I'm sure Max has kept you abreast of what's going on with the CDBG funds that are going towards the demo and remediation of the site. We're helping out where we can with that. But we are now in the full-on process of going through the application process for financing the project. Right now, as everyone knows, construction costs are all over the place. We're estimating, 32 units is going to be somewhere north of $9 million. So we're going to be going after multiple funding sources. The one that we're most hopeful for is the HUD 202 program. The HUD 202 program is one that we run at all of our current, all except for one and a half of our current facilities. And we like that program because it's a 55 plus, and it provides some subsidy for the individuals who live there. So it's a great program, and like I said, we'll have to go after that as well as some other funding sources as well through Maine Housing. So we're working through all that right now. Our first application deadline is January 25th. So, which will be the HUD 202 application. There'll be some low-income housing tax credit applications, some other applications that we apply for through Maine Housing, and potentially some other funding streams mid next year once we figure out what we have for funding from our initial applications. So for right now, we're just kind of working through the process. Part of that is to get that application in January 25th. We need to be a little bit through the planning board process. So I was working with Max and Julie last week to kind of figure out what that process is. Our architect is working on initial drawings, and I have some drawings. If you guys are interested, I'm happy to show you just some initial ideas. When we came to you guys the last time, we were talking about doing a rehab on the building. This project's a little different, so we just started from a different perspective. The idea still being that we're going to pay homage to the building as much as possible, but maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of the new building on that property. So I'm happy to show you some of that stuff that we're going to be weeding out the ideas as we go into the planning board process, and first part of next year, start finalizing, having some community forums, and really kind of finalizing those concepts and getting some 3D models together, because we really want the public to have some input and really buy into the concepts. I know we're not going to please everyone, but we're going to try to please as many people as possible. So that's kind of where we are right now.
If you want to share them, I think
Okay,
Max
great.
allowed it.
Yeah,
Everyone-
Brian, I believe you should be able to share your screen.
Yep, give me 1 second here, Max. Let me see. I may lose you guys when I do this. Let me see.
All right, we can see it.
All right, let me see if I'm gonna go ahead and make it. Let me see if I can hit enter full screen mode. Oh, you guys are still there. Great. So kind of starting at the top, this is a little skewed because of the way I have to lay it out. So just to orient everyone, the school street's going to be here on the left. This is the current front of the building, but this is the new design. So this is really conceptually exactly what we had modeled when we were talking about doing a rehab. The biggest difference is that we wanted to allow for some conversation with the town around, since we're going to make this, connection on the north side over here is going to be is going to be the park and the ball fields. Do we want to make some space potentially for the town to come in and put some extra parking spaces for access to the park or access to the existing tennis courts? So this is really the same conceptual design, just looking at, what are our boundaries with this particular site? What we maybe need to consider. As you can see, the parking lot kind of bleeds over the existing line. So there just needs to be some conversation around how we're going to do that. But for the most part, front of the building, this is the kind of the annex area that was there before, entrance and parking on this side. So not much conceptually different from what you had seen before. This imagines it's a little bit different because we're just not sure which direction people are going to want to go in. Again, we're going to do our best to pay as much homage to the building as possible. This is not personally my favorite design, but we just put it out there for conversation's sakes. This is a design where we put some parking on the front and move the building back towards the back part of the lot. Again, leaving some extra space here on the north side of the lot for additional parking should the town want to do that as well. But nothing really changes with the access to the current lots to the south side of this in this design. Again, this is just another more simple, straight design, parking on the side. Just another conceptual option.
Abden had a question. Abden has a question.
Oh, sorry, I can't see anyone. So just jump in there.
Is this plan also redo the pre-existing tennis courts?
So
Or is
we would,
that up to the town to do?
yeah, we don't have we don't have any say over what happens to the tennis courts because I think you have another grant. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Max. That is not part of the property. What you see here, these dotted lines, these dashes and dots, these are the existing property lines. But our property line would end somewhere before that tennis court.
So Abden, just to answer your question, the tennis courts are part of what's called a Land Water Conservation Fund grant.
Yep.
That was made back in the 1970s. And
Yep.
from what I understand from our talks with Brian, at least a few months ago, we would still be allowed to keep the tennis courts. The only thing that Volunteers America would really get is the concrete area.
Yep.
For where E-grade used to be.
Yep.
And we do have to keep the tennis courts and keep that open for recreational use.
But aren't they in a disarray?
They are in disarray.
And that's why I was wondering, do we fix these when they're in there doing their construction? Do we work on getting that straightened around?
I've had the members of the YMCA actually come to take a look at it and give an idea for how much it's going to cost. I'm working with the recreation director to find an alternative.
And
I don't know if there's going to be a good timeline for that.
So this is why I think it's important for us to have a conversation because right now there's a drainage line that comes off the existing building that goes straight through that tennis court. So if you walk out in that tennis court, if you stand at the building and look into the tennis court, you can see that drainage line that goes straight through there. Because of the amount of ledge that we're anticipating on this site, there is going to be some drainage stuff. So if we're fixing different runoff issues with the current site, that may be a good time for you to start to consider what you want to do with the tennis courts as well.
That's where I was going with that is,
Yeah.
do we fix them at the same time? Or relocate them?
I'd say, well, definitely keep in mind this, that if the drainage pipe is still gonna go through the tennis courts, then if we're going to repair the courts, we need to see how much it would be. So that we're not having this type of conflict anymore. But I'm also working with Marcus to see if there's an alternative spot we can use. I'm all set.
Okay. And please just chime in because I'll continue talking. if no
Because
one-
like I said, if we do move, find an alternate, then we can turn that into a park
Yeah.
and move the tennis court somewhere else. It's just,
Absolutely.
Working on it. I got
Yeah.
plans.
I know, I'm sure you do.
So just kind of continuing on, one thing we wanted the architect to look at is there a way to allow a little more privacy for the existing lots to the south side of this location? So what we talked about is just putting the L on the other side, maybe putting the entrance to the parking on the north side. Again, allowing some potential spaces up here for the town if they wanted to for parking on the park side, depending on what you do at the tennis courts and all those other things. So again, just another potential option. But I think the one that we rather preferred, and I think that for a variety of reasons, where I'm leaning right now is having this particular design. One, because I think it honors the building in its original form the most. I think that's where people visually are going to see that homage to the original construction. But a layout like this, depending on what we do with the lot lines, gives us gives fire rescue and other automobiles complete access to the entire range of the building from the north side to the south side of the building and back to the street. So that's kind of where we're leaning. But again, this
the
is
same-
a conversation.
That's this plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, we're encroaching, with access here across the line on the existing lot. Again, these lot lines are going to change because, like we were just talking about with the tennis courts, was never part of this discussion. So we're just going to need to figure out where those lot lines go and who's in charge of what from that perspective. But I think this is kind of where we're leaning. And again, it's all part of the discussion. Any questions about any of that?
Did you have another plan?
I think that's all of them. So
I
we
don't
got the-
think we saw the second one, did we?
No, I only saw one.
We only saw one.
All right, so let's see. Let me start back here. All right, do you see this one now with the parking in the front?
No.
No, it's just showing us page 5 out of 5.
All right, let's try it again.
That's where I was confused. I thought it was me, Brian. I really did.
Yeah,
All
might
right,
have just been an issue when you went to full screen.
Oh, okay, there you are.
Yep. Now
all
we can see
right. Can you see that?
Yes.
So this one kind of has we have access on the north side. We have access towards the south of the lot, but parking in the front, has its upsides, but it really doesn't give you that that total feel of what the building used to be and how it used to sit on the property. Can you see this one?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. So with this one, what we're looking at is entrance to the parking on the north side of the lot, which is cut off. And what we're trying to do with this is try to provide some privacy for this existing lots here. I'm not sure, is there an existing structure on this back lot here?
Yes, there
Yeah.
is.
So we were trying to provide some, separation between the two lots there. Just an option. It basically just takes that L that we were proposing originally and transposes it to the other side. This is just a single one length building along that north side with parking on the south. Pretty straightforward. Again, a good flow design for us from, fire rescue and, all that kind of access stuff. But again, not exactly the building layout from the original. This again is parking in the front with the building kind of flipped around and pushed to the back of the lot from School Street. And this was the one that we favored, which was the access to the north and south, full 360-degree access around the building. Plus, it's similar to the original design of what we had proposed when we were going to rehab the structure.
And you can send those to Max so we have them.
Sure can.
Thank you.
Again, just as long as everyone understands, these are just preliminary sketches so that we have some direction when we go to planning board. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all you got? Well, thank you for the update.
Yeah. Any questions about timeline, concerns, anything that you're hearing around town that we should be aware of?
Nothing.
What's that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, perfect. Well, let me know. You'll be seeing more of us.
Sounds good, Brian. Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone.
Okay. Is there any other new business that should come before the group?
How was your meeting?
Thought Derek was fabulous.
Oh, phenomenal. That's why it took them a while to get out of there. They're all thanking. They all wanted to shake his hand.
Yeah.
Good. Say what, a good job he did.
A lot of people show up.
Not a lot.
Okay, so everything went well, huh?
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of concern expressed by 2 or 3 people about
Mhm.
revenue sharing, and the draft contract addresses that. So I don't see there being a problem.
Okay. Glad to hear it.
Their select board was good.
Mhm.
They answered the questions.
I'm glad that, I knew Derek would do well. I knew you would do well.
Okay, again, any new business? Not, then we'll move to old business. Anybody have anything? Okay. If not, we'll move on to agenda items for next meeting.
Peg and I are going to have a updated personnel policy for you.
Okay. Anything else for agenda items? All right, entertain motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Discussion, excuse me. Is there any discussion? If not, then all in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we'll convene as a Board of Assessors.
And who
Is
is
there- Go ahead.
chairman of that?
I am.
He says with great enthusiasm.
Call the meeting of the Board of Assessors to order.
And look who we have. He magically appeared. The assessor.
Let me apologize for taking so long to get values done, but I was shocked at all the building that went on without permits in this town. How could that be? No. Oh, yeah.
He has, I have to tell you, he has kept Stan so busy. They're a tag team.
Thank you.
Because he gets to send, you didn't get a permit. Yeah, 2008, and I mean, I drive the roads, but if I can't see down a long driveway or can't see in, I don't generally drive down. But this time where it was gonna be new values, I drove into every property. Voila, apartments, garages, barns.
And we have to also realize that Stan only became full-time a little less than a year ago.
It was kind of interesting. If you read the town line up our way, the town of China was in between code offices and whatnot and was voting to grant amnesty to all these people that have done things in violation. So I guess everybody with COVID decided they would,
They had time on their hands
and money,
and money.
and lots got done. But as of half an hour ago, I actually put some numbers together. And I'd love to talk.
Yeah.
So what happened? The first sheet is state valuation. They've just come out with the new numbers as of last week. So 2008 was the last time that we had touched building costs. So it's been 14 years. We dragged our feet hoping the market would peak.
Straighten out.
Hasn't yet. So by going to 2022 cost schedules, down below that, we were at 95 on our 18 to 19 sales. They do a July to June. They do a combined water with non-water. There were 75 sales back then. We were at 95. We were looking good. The next ratio was 7 of 19 to 6 of 20, and we had dropped to 88 with 53 sales. And then the sales from 20 to 21, we had dropped to 79% on our old values with 59. So we were headed below 50 if we hadn't done anything. By coming in with new cost schedules on the buildings, the 88 ratio went to 108. But then the one they just came out with, those, the 79 actually is only at 91, just squeaking above the threshold. So hopefully things will change around. Or if not, next year we'll be looking at adjusting land. I didn't touch land. Land is about half the value in the town. So by dropping the mill rate, the land value rate goes down. And the buildings have to make up the difference. So part of the increases people are going to see on their buildings that haven't been touched in 14 years, they're also picking up the fact that land was not touched. And I didn't realize what a drastic effect, but it does have quite an effect if you're. So if you have a great big land value with a little house on it, you may go down because the rate went down in essence. Any questions, I guess?
So there's no way to break that out. I mean, land is actually worth a lot more now than it was 14 years ago.
I didn't have the sales at the time.
I gotcha. So you can't, there's nothing to go by then.
So there wasn't much to go by.
Okay.
I mean, even with this latest sale, they do there was only like 11 waterfront sales, which is not a much the
Right.
last time, and there was less than that in this scenario.
Just raw land.
No,
Oh.
land and building. I think there was only like 8 on the water, so we didn't have a lot. But the asking prices have gone up and we've got
Right.
more sales.
But that was
Typically.
contributed to the building itself versus the land value. With the price going up.
Sales,
Yes, when somebody sells a house, there's gonna be a,
it's
You
a
know,
unit. They don't break it down. We have to break land buildings. They sell it as
Right.
a property.
Yep.
So what actually went up? So where are we at? Figuring out the tax rate calculator. You have the new value and what we need for county, town. The TIF in the middle there, number 9, if you're looking on this rate. It'll be 59,405 going to the TIF, which we hadn't had in the past.
what was last year?
5,000.
5,000, so yeah. But is this
Um,
contributed,
Sorry.
is this contributed from like the solar and the eel farm and stuff like that?
No, this is because we didn't do personal property and solar is under personal property, so you don't get anything out of.
I'm talking the solar farms. and stuff.
Nothing, that's
That,
personal.
so it hasn't even gone into
That's
this yet.
equipment. No, we didn't do equipment, we did real estate only.
Now, I thought stuff like that went into the
No.
extra taxes and that went into the TIF.
So I assume you talked about the solar farms that are on North Noblesboro Road.
Yes.
Those wouldn't count because they don't generate enough electricity. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
So I think you have to generate over 5 megawatts worth of energy, which is why the one in Warren is going to be applicable to property taxes, but the ones we're getting aren't.
So what he's saying is they're eligible, the state determined any solar under 5 megawatts gets Betty business exempt.
Mhm.
So they're exempt
From,
from real estate tax. And we get half back from the value under the business equipment. So that's, you're right, the state set that up. It wasn't anything, I say, well, if we did real estate, build or personal, but the state determined anything under 5 eligible for Betty, and we only get half back. The eel farm, if it's equipment, we don't, that again is Betty, because it's manufacturing, get half back.
Does this include the new business up in the business park?
Which is the eel farm.
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
Isn't in that number.
It's in this number as far as real estate. It wasn't done as of April 1st. And I did run into a snag on the equipment. They did not give a complete list. So the state is not going to include, want a list of the equipment before they're going to reimburse half. And we just never got to a point to get in those numbers. They're saying it's all equipment because I guess it's kind of interesting. I've never been in there, but they poured a slab, they put all these pipes and tanks, and then they poured cement.
they poured filler and then they poured cement.
So,
I've been in the building, I've seen.
so
it.
the
It's
building
quite a
is basically one of a kind. and-
Yep.
but I
Yeah.
treat it as light manufacturing. And so, no, that one is not in under your better reimbursement. Again, if I don't have a detailed list and if I don't have a signature and I don't have an application,
Yeah.
the state's not gonna give me any money.
Yeah.
So I could go ahead and throw something out there and then they'll claw back and say you owe us back because they didn't follow the procedures.
No, I'm just curious because, the TIF was a big deal, with
Yep.
helping.
So that's just the increase in the building values. The
Mhm.
other thing I didn't realize, but we went from Osram, Sylvania to being taxed to being zero. You have to make up that value down there. So you got to make up
We
$1
wasn't,
million in value before you even start getting any money. So if you lose something, it starts with the original number and you got to make it up.
but we didn't have it valued at $1 million.
Between the two properties, we lost 600,000, I think.
That was years ago.
Like 550.
550.
That was a long time ago. Darryl.
No, it was only 3 years ago. We're in the 4th year of our TIF.
Oh, you're talking about the TIF.
Oh, gotcha.
TIF. Yeah.
All right, I gotcha. Sorry.
Nope, no problem. Good questions. So if you look down at the bottom, the suggested rate is 14 and the overlay is 98, 576.44. Nobody's really had a chance to look at this, including Julie or Peg or anybody.
So is that the mill rate dropping?
From 18 down to 14, 4 mils.
Yep.
But if you look at your individual,
Your overlay is still 98,000. What do we usually carry when we do that?
so if you look on the big sheet.
Yep.
The big sheet.
I like the big sheet.
That
I can
takes you
read it.
back to 1980.
Is that when you started, Daryl?
I started in 82. so-
Okay.
But I'm on here. 2 more years drop off and I'm there. So you can see in 82, there was 10,000 in abatements, which is generally what you use overlay for at the top. And if you come all the way down, the highest year was following a building reval in 2008. We abated 27,000 the next year. But that's the highest. Usually it's around 10,000. I went to 2021 sales. It came in at 108. 2022 has us at 91. So you come in and argue your assessment, I generally can show you a sale that sold for 160 last year, just sold for 250.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near our assessment, or, we're below assessments again. It's just, and I had the property on the Castor Road was listed 5 days ago. A guy came in and said they're given 6 days for a bidding war. And they'll open the bids in 6 days, and whatever it is, we'll take. So I hadn't seen the bidding wars. They got into one in Back Cove, 11 people wanted the property. It was listed at 250, it sold for 381. Bidding wars are in Waldeboro, if you got a property that everybody wants. Just won't go away.
Now, like I said, with the layover, that's excess money, correct?
Correct. It's
We had
available.
quite a bit last year, didn't we?
Yes, you had the two. So the overlay is the middle column overlay. You had 239,000.
Right, and you only get 98 this time.
Yes, with a 14 mil rate. I love equal.
Yep.
Nice numbers.
What was, we had a safe zone we was willing to work with. What was that, if I remember right? Remember you wanted to stay the same,
I did.
and we went down, what, two
Yeah,
tenths?
we went
Two
down a little
200s,
bit.
yeah.
We were still above 18, I think.
No, it was right on 18,
We went to 18.
right? It was like 18.2.
Oh, okay.
And it was what, over 200?
239.
Yeah.
Was an overlay of 2.74%.
I've just always felt that it's better to keep what you got in the bank than risk losing.
But I mean, if we get an overlay of 98,000, is that comfortable?
Is that a comfortable coverage?
We've never spent more than 27,000 out in overlay, so I think it's
Okay.
more than comfortable. From that perspective, what you want to have available going forward is another item. If you look at your individual, where you have, you can see what the increase was on your home. So people are gonna see increases.
So Daryl, the typical theory was a third go up, a third go down, and a third stay the same.
Yes,
And I think people have heard that for years.
yes.
Is this a little different this year?
I don't honestly, people, land value went down, so they're all gonna go down. If there's no building on the property, theirs went from an 18 to a 14, their taxes went down. If
But
you-
not if they have a building on it.
If they have a building on it, depends what the building is, and they're,
How much acreage they have, probably.
yeah, because
Acreage, yeah.
acreage would
More
offset.
acreage was offset it, yeah.
And if you have a $2 million shorefront property, that rate went down. But that, they always say it works out.
Where am I looking? Oh, yeah. I don't have 4 bedrooms, so must be hiding one.
Which house is it?
Should have found that last year. Bedrooms don't matter, but we can correct it. Bathrooms do. We get like breakdown bathrooms.
One. It was fun. 9 people used to live there. In the summer.
People will be shocked with the values. They'll say, I didn't do
I am.
anything.
I'll sell mine right now.
They didn't do
I'll sell it in a
anything to
heartbeat,
the
don't I?
property. Why is it being assessed?
You
like
give me
this?
3/4 of this and I'll give it to you.
There is an appeal process.
I'm
What
just
is that-
saying.
What is
I'm
that process? Just so everybody's aware.
They can fill out an abatement request and indicate what they feel the property is worth and why they feel it's worth that, and they come to this board, and the board reviews it. And then I will put forth what has sold that's in the neighborhood and why I feel the values are right, and that everybody's on the same schedule and whatnot. A decision is made here, and if they're not happy, they can go to the county commissioners, and the commissioners review it and give a decision. And if they're not happy with that, they can pay the money to go to Superior Court.
And I have a silly question. I know the answer to this, but I'm asking because I think people watching the meeting in the future may not know. Why do we do revaluations?
The reason you do a revaluation is to get fully reimbursed from the state mainly. If there's two real reasons. One, if you don't, you have to adjust all of the veterans, the homestead, tree growth down. You don't get full reimbursed from the state on their funds. They only give you 50% if that's what you're at. There is a law that says you are to be above 70. The whole purpose is the closer you are to market value is to identify whether you're being treated fair or not. So everything is available to the public and they can look and say, all right, this is what they got me at, but am I being treated fair? And the further you get away from that, if you're only at half value, they, oh, that's no problem. But the rate doubles. So the idea is to have it more equitable and that the taxpayer can determine whether they're being treated fairly or not. The shocker is if they bought a HUD double wide for 40,000 and now all of a sudden I've had single wide sell at 250 in Astro, which is a $20,000 mobile home sell for 250,000. It just, it's crazy. But they're up in the price when you go to buy those units. So if you
70,
wait a year to get one.
80, 90,000, $100,000 for for
See?
a single
Yeah.
wide trailer. Blows my mind. Couldn't imagine.
I think I'd be doing this again.
What does 13 versus 14 look like?
So the lowest is down on line 17. It says the minimum rate has to be 13,861. So you can't go down to 13.
And that's
maximum
because,
because you're only allowed a 5%.
oh, drop.
Well, you've got to raise so much. That's the minimum to raise the money you need.
Mhm.
13.
Okay.
That's it.
So it really isn't gonna drop much.
No.
So 14 is the magic number.
Unless you want more overlay, then you can increase it higher, but yeah, that's.
And that's why I asked about how much we really needed in overlay. You said usually 27,000 covers,
That was the maximum year before.
so we got almost almost three times, yeah, over three times that, so.
And it is a way to get additional revenue if that's
Yep.
something that
Yep.
town needs.
Good.
Not supposed to be used that way, but a lot of towns do.
Guess we get our answer.
Some towns take the bare minimum, other towns go to the max.
And your recommendation is the 14 based on your professional judgment and your appearing here
love-
since 1982.
I
And
love
it's not just
even
round numbers. I
Yes, it's
know.
an even number. I love an even number. I
But
don't see these towns go 13.96. I can't.
But what I'm saying is that 14 is the right number, 13 is not the right number, 15 is not the right number, 14 is the number you're recommending.
That is my
Not
number.
just because it's a round number.
Well, that's the main reason. I always pick an even number.
So theoretical question. What would your position be a year from now if the bottom drops out of the market and nobody can sell a house because interest rates are too high, no one can pay the mortgages and there's no market anymore?
So historically, we've said, we've established this, we're gonna ride it out for 14 years with those values. Everybody's overvalued, we're equitable, we don't change. The reason that's not gonna happen is there's no inventory. So they gotta build up houses to sell. If you don't have a house to sell, they can continue to ask inflated prices, but if they don't sell. But obviously, I said when we lowered the value down there on the water for years, they said, we're over. If we get enough sales, we reduced them by 25,000 on all the lots. So yes, if things come in at a different price, if the condos over there's 8 of them, if 4 of them sell way below, you go with what they sell for.
So you would adjust the valuation, you wouldn't adjust the bill rate.
Right, no, it'd be the valuation.
Do it on a one-off basis. And that's fair.
Building costs would have to drop drastically. Back in and do the schedules on the building costs. You can do a factor, but I'm a firm believer in doing everybody, not just a section of them, but you could do
Yeah.
a section, but
Well, Jan and I had this conversation about stability when we left the meeting in Jefferson tonight, and how nice it is to have a handle on your facts and your costs. And I kind of had the same attitude toward the mill rate. And here we have a substantial change in mill rate. I mean, this is a big change, a drop of 4 points.
I was at a meeting a little over a week ago, and building costs have gone from $150 a square foot to $350 a square foot in the last 2 years. It's just outrageous.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I like your shirt.
Jan sold it to me.
Yeah, it's nice.
and I mean, I heard last week it just hit that there weren't gonna be K1 this year. It wasn't gonna be available. So they're gonna have to buy fuel oil and put the additive in. It just, which affects everything, if you can't supply and demand, but who would have ever dreamed that they couldn't buy K1?
Let's not go there.
Chairman, are you looking for a motion?
I am.
I'd move a mill rate of 14.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 14 it is.
Anything else?
I just want to say, Daryl has been here since 1982. In my 36 years of municipal government and being the daughter of an assessor in New Jersey, I am consistently impressed with Daryl and his methodology. He genuinely does care about his job and puts a lot of effort and thought into everything. He has been such an asset to the town of Waldeboro, and being an assessor is not a fun job ever. Well, but I hope you all got a chance to read the article in the paper that he was interviewed by Rebecca Cooney recently. And I just loved, I would disagree with him on, the river is amazing and
I said, I think it smells and it's overrated. That's what she printed.
I totally disagree with that.
But I like the smell.
But
It smells like money.
It's an acquired taste.
But I loved, he actually said at one point that
See,
there's
there you go.
there's this fallacy that, how you set the tax rate is the town manager walks in and tells them what to do. And he's like, it's not like that. And I do think that any town manager that actually did try to walk in and tell him what to do would get an earful. And I just think, since 1982, we should recognize your years of service to this town. It's rare to find public servants like that anymore. And I would just like to say a heartfelt thank you. And, always consistently impressed with his work and the time he put into getting this accomplished. Like he said, with all of the addeds that went on with, he's also keeping Stan busy. I think Stan will be busy, glad he is not out and about anymore.
You will get a lot of calls. You will get conversations at the grocery store. Send them in to get the evaluation report. Check it out, see if there's anything wrong. We will correct if there's errors. I'm sure I made some errors. It's a lot of data entry. And then they can review it with the board if they really feel something's wrong.
That's why we're here.
That's right.
And I'll put this on the I will put this in our website of the information from the state on what a revaluation is. And I will also include, the freeze. The senior,
Over 65.
the senior freeze.
65.
Yes.
It's been here for 10 years or had a home in Maine.
We'll include all the information on what you can qualify for assistance.
I filled mine out.
Yes.
There was a lot of talk about that at the MMA last week. And one of the things they pointed out was that we're under no obligation to advertise it, to make it known, to tell people about it. No obligation to do that, but I think we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Whether we're under an obligation or not.
Well, I can't even imagine a municipal association thinking that's the good
No,
line.
no, they didn't.
Oh.
They're just explaining the law. They're not taking a position. They're just explaining.
I don't think we have to,
Municipality
I think there's a lot that could be said about that particular law. I know from whence I
man.
came, there was some type of income test.
None.
There is none in Maine, but I will say this, the people who will need it most have not been coming through the door.
That's right. And
And the people who don't have been the ones
That's right.
because they're in the know. And I think it's incumbent upon us as a town and as a community who cares about their residents, that we need to make that known, especially to those who could be the most adversely affected. So,
they are aware of that. They formed a committee on this. They're gonna either advocate repealing it and replacing it, which is probably the way they're gonna go to fix the intent, which is exactly what you said.
I think it was well intended, but there is really no excuse for the legislature or the governors, or I don't even know who started it. There are plenty of, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of other states that do it and do it well that they could have looked towards. But for us, I think it's incumbent upon us to keep our residents well informed, because that's a way a lot of them could save some money and potentially save their home.
A lot of bigger towns would have sent out a notice, this is your new value, there would have been an appeal to review. Just a single individual, I'd just be, they wouldn't know what the rate was yet. It just, to me, send them the bill. If they have questions, come on in. Or I'll go out, look at what they got. But generally speaking, most people are using common sense and know what their neighbors sold for. They all know what selling on the, in the neighborhood and what it's going for, and
Yeah. I think-
potentially they could do the same, but then they'd be without a house, and where are they gonna go? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tag check all numbers. That's what I do.
Everybody has PEG. We need to convene into an executive.
Okay. Is there a motion to convene in the executive session?
We gotta come out of tax assessors. board.
I'd make that motion pursuant to MRSA, section 4056D, to discuss the labor issue.
Is there a second?
I think we gotta come out of Board of Assessors first.
Oh, then that's, I'm sorry.
Yes. Before we go into.
We want to make that motion.
I will second that. I will make that motion to come out of it, Board of Assessors.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
No, it's-
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed?